All right. Hello out there to everyone, all 5 of you who may be listening. To everyone from the Motor City of Detroit to the megalopolis of Pelzer, South Carolina, the town so terrible that 2 different counties refuse to claim it. That over there is
Brian.
My name is Tom, and we have a very special guest today. Her name is Victoria Watlington. How are you, Victoria?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for coming.
coming.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually want you to be here. And Victoria is a candidate for Charlotte City Council District 3, which is we're sitting right on the line there, but we are in District 3 over here. And that is on the white-hot west side, is also included in District 3. There's a lot going on down here. Today, the podcast is being recorded at the Vault inside the Playroom, right here on red-hot west side of Charlotte in District 3 at the glorious Playroom, 916 Tuckasegee Road. Visit theplayroom.online.com, Charlotte's premier recording and rehearsal facility since 1994. Go there, check it out, rent some space, rent some studio time, record a podcast for dirt cheap.
That's what we do.
We can't afford whatever's above dirt, air cheap.
We don't even know what we're doing.
That much is certain.
So I'm going to get the easy, boring stuff out of the way
Hit
first.
it.
So how long have you been in Charlotte, and what brought you here?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in Charlotte since 2009, so this year makes 10 years, a full decade.
Noob.
Right. I was talking to somebody a couple days ago, and they were like, oh, yeah, until you get to about 30 years, nobody thinks that you're from
No,
Charlotte.
if you get like 5 years, you're a Charlattean. You're just a newbie Charlattean. That's all.
Well, good. But
You
then
belong
I guess
to
I'm
us now.
Good.
Just got
So
me beat.
yeah, I moved here in 2009 because I took a job with Procter & Gamble down in Lancaster, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to Charlotte and commuted every day. But yeah, I've been
That
here
used to seem like a long way. It's nothing now.
Right.
Yeah, I go there in
exactly.
Sun City, Indian Land, all that stuff all the time.
Yes, it's amazing. I feel like we really are. We're starting anyway to think like a region.
Yeah.
Versus, oh well, I can't go to the other side of town. That's somebody else's neighborhood.
Man,
or
I
that
got
kind of
relatives
thing.
in York County, South Carolina, and they're terrified to go north on Highway 49. Nah, man, I can't go to Charlotte. Nah, man, they got 4 roads over there. I can't handle all that.
Oh,
It's terrifying to them.
shoot! York has its own big, I guess, highways, if you will. Now that they've built out 5 and some of the other ones, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, okay. Y'all
Yeah,
are
and
doing
they're
things.
constantly expanding on 160 and 161.
Anything that really makes my commute a little less parked on the highway, I like.
I'm lucky. I can kind of come and go whenever I want to,
Yeah,
but
no,
I'm not typical. Victoria, your district that you would like to serve, District 3, it's a hot district. It's a great area of Charlotte. It includes the white-hot west side, the Freedom Drive corridor. What is it that concerns you, and what do you think you can help this district and Charlotte as a whole, and even on the bigger picture, Mecklenburg County, North Carolina? What can you do? What are you looking to do?
Sure. So, a couple of things. I'll say concerns or opportunities, if you will. Because we're changing so rapidly, we've got the rail line that's coming down Wilkinson. We've got the River District that's going to be the new Ballantyne to the west of the airport. We've got rerouting of some of our major thoroughfares. South End is moving west, like we were talking earlier. There's just so much going on that it's important that we take the opportunity right now before things really start taking off to make sure that we've got our hands wrapped around it and that we're protecting for affordability, that people are able to be a part of the growth and the change. And so we don't end up looking up and it's a completely different west side and the residents that have been here and invested here are not able to stay. We got to make sure, to your point earlier, Brian, about transportation, that we do it in a way that makes sense. So people are able to enjoy living on the west side and not sitting in their cars for forever waiting to get home in a traffic jam.
And still being able to stay in those same homes. Brian will
Exactly.
attest to it, and so will a lot of other people. I've been railing on this for years with property tax going up and up. I kept talking to people and saying, well, I don't know how they would do this, but couldn't they do something for legacy homes? You know, just as a for instance, right over here in Enderley Park, somebody that's living in the house that their mother and their grandmother and grandfather lived in. There's got to be a way that, and you may already have ideas on this, a way that they can, you know, make them legacy homes where if the family's still there, they're not selling the house, but someone in the family is still living there, where the house has been willed to them or left to them, or they're taking care of their older relative or parent. I feel like there should be a way that those taxes are maybe not frozen, but greatly reduced as long as it stays in the family and isn't sold at a profit. Am I insane?
No, I don't think so. As a matter of fact,
Brian's looking
Brian,
at
You
me
just pointed at me.
oh, man. I just mean, is that a crazy idea?
No, I don't think so. And as of course, there's already the Aging in Place program with the city that provides tax abatement support, and the
Really?
county, of course, has its own tax abatement.
I'm not quite old
programs.
enough to know what that is.
Well,
You looked at me like, you should know that, sir.
no,
You're older.
I don't mean it like that at all. No. But there are programs for seniors to help with
Okay.
that, to kind of give reduced taxes, if you will. It's like annual programs. But I think that one of the things that we should look at is not just for seniors, but for people who live exactly like you said. Maybe I moved into the house, I took care of my mother, she passed away, and I've been here, kind of thing. How do we make sure that people that are in areas that are turning over and are changing very
Targets for
quickly-
gentrification.
Exactly.
Yes.
How do we make sure that people that are in those areas also have some safety net, if you will,
Sure.
to be able to stay? So I don't think it should just be for seniors. I think we should
You're
look
right.
at expanding it.
I was not aware of that program. I pride myself on knowing something, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's $1.5 million allocated for it over the next 2 years. So you'll see $750,000 in the 2020 budget, and then another $750,000 following.
We like numbers.
Me
And you
too.
seem to have a better grasp on math and numbers than most musicians. Reference
Shade.
our previous podcast. Well, that's really good news. I can't believe I was on the same page with smart people.
Oh, geez.
But I said for years that I thought that Freedom Drive is the single nicest piece of infrastructure, not including interstates and things like that. But I think it's the nicest piece of infrastructure in Charlotte. It's always had, 3 and 4 lanes in either direction, pedestrian oases, which is the proper plural, Brian. Nice crosswalks, the proper amount of stoplights, and just very well built. And I see companies coming. The day I saw Walker Zanger, Tylen Stone,
Yes.
I spent years decades in that industry. And when I saw them take that old Goodwill building, I said,
yeah.
oh, it's on. Because that place is the most outrageously priced tile company in the world.
We
and
were
that's a good
just in
thing.
there last week, I think it was?
It's
It
the
was
Whole
like,
Foods of tile.
Yes.
That's what it is. Except they don't have $3 root beer.
No,
It was very pretty in there.
it's a market they could corner.
Root beer on Freedom or something?
I got a question. So we normally are interviewing musicians in here, and they're always, and we even talked to them about it, of certain places closing down and other things coming up and all these apartments and whatever. Do you ever think the city is growing just too fast?
I do. And I think that not just too fast just because it's too fast,
Right.
but because we're not planning and we haven't got to the place where we can say, all right, let's look forward. And so that's why I'm really excited about the 2040 comprehensive planning work. I think it's absolutely critical to do it now. Because I think about, even when I moved here in 2009 down to Still Creek, Still Creek looks completely different than it did when I moved here just 10 years ago. But I don't know that anybody ever really said, let's get a handle on this. I think people were taken by surprise. And you can tell me that. But it seems as if folks weren't really expecting Charlotte to blow up.
Charlotte has always been, and I don't want to jinx it, but a little bit recession-proof. It's always been growing, but the growth during the last housing boom that crashed in 8 and 9 and all that stuff, I thought the growth was unfettered, unmanaged. I thought it was just crazy amounts of sprawl. There was no, inspectors weren't inspecting things properly. They weren't getting out there on quick enough. There was no erosion abatement on job sites. There was no litter control. There were no recycling. All this stuff just directly related to building. I feel like it's better this time. I go to a lot of new neighborhoods with one of the jobs I have, and it seems better this time. It doesn't seem out of control. It is growing rapidly, but a lot of that growth is also just over our borders in Fort Mill,
Right.
in Indian Land, things like that. I think we have a better grasp on it, and we have more help from our neighbors.
I know they expect a lot of people to be moving here over the next few years, and they're building a lot of these apartment complexes and stuff like that. But I just feel like they're popping up on every corner. So that's why I didn't know if you thought it was just
And they're
too
expensive.
fast.
Right.
Well, they are expensive, and then they take away from parking at other places or whatever else. Everybody's got different hot and cold takes on all of it. So
Right.
yeah.
Do you feel like we've moved in Charlotte proper? Have we moved towards a building in and up at this point instead of out because
Yes,
we've run
definitely.
out of space?
We've run out of land. I looked
Yeah.
at a map a few months ago, and it showed maybe 10 years ago where you could kind of see the tree canopy and the green space, undeveloped land.
Yeah.
And if you look now, I mean, we literally have no more space when you really look at it. So infill has become the thing, which isn't a bad thing because if you get smart about where you do infill, then you can reduce folks having to travel around and you can create more
Sure.
walkable communities. But yeah, I think we are at that place where you're going to build up and you're going to have to do more redevelopment than anything.
Yeah, well, that's how the really big cities and the world-class cities have done it over the
Mm-hmm.
years, is build it near your transportation infrastructure. And really all we have right now is our light rail.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great, great start, and it's been a great thing, and I love it.
We've got the scooters.
I loathe the scooters.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
They're scary, but I could see why. I mean, I
Well-
could see jumping on it if I didn't have far to go.
Let me tell you, we've come up here to our place here on Tuckasegee before, and it's not a one-lane driveway. It is
Yeah.
a multi-space parking lot beside other parking. It's an industrial area, and found 2-3 of those things laying out in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, it wasn't me, but people got them and threw them pretty far
Yeah.
into the next parking lot.
Yeah, I
So
do
they
think
get
we
angry about them
definitely-
being left places. My
Yeah.
sister was really upset about the Lime bikes being left in her front yard.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted my scrap metal guy's phone number, and I said, "No, don't call him for that, man.
I feel like I haven't seen the Lime bikes in a long time.
Not as much."
Yeah.
Well, that was a pilot program, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Well, doesn't the city have the B-cycles? Is that a Charlotte City thing? Is that still a thing?
Is that the ones with the hospital?
I don't know.
In New York, they have the city bikes. That's
Yeah.
Citibank does. But here, I think they had Atrium was doing them, or Caroline's Medical
Yeah,
Center, or
Don't make
something
me
like that.
lie.
So going back to earlier days, what got you interested in politics? I know you have.
Yeah. So real simple. My neighbors.
Okay.
I was involved with different things when I first moved here. As far as back when Hands on Charlotte before it became United Way, I did some of that. I was very involved with the National Society of Black Engineers and involved in my church. But when I moved out of Still Creek because traffic had gotten too bad. That commute down to Lancaster, it was.
From Still Creek?
Mm-hmm. Going because at the time they hadn't even widened, the intersection where Gold Hill Road and 160.
That's
is.
exactly where he lives.
That's where I live.
Oh well, then you know.
Oh, that's terrible.
They're
dude.
starting to, I think, widen 160 when you're going into
Right near
now,
Hamilton
yeah.
Road.
Yeah.
And so I moved. I said I needed to be somewhere close on 77 and just so happened to move to my neighborhood I live in now, right off West Boulevard, and started to meet my neighbors. So I'm an Army brat, like we were saying before, and I moved around a little bit.
I can't believe you didn't move back to Fayetteville. Let's stop
Shocker,
there.
right? Shocker.
Let's stop there. Remember, anybody on the internet can hear this.
910. No, I'm just kidding. So I moved up here, and as soon as I started to meet my neighbors, I moved into an older neighborhood that was just more quiet. It wasn't very suburban or anything like that, no garages, that kind of thing. But my neighbors had been in their houses for years, and they were generational homes. And even I was talking to a neighbor a couple weeks ago, and she and her husband bought her home 45 years ago. They've been there ever since. They raised their family. And so anyway, that struck me. I felt like, oh, this is Charlotte, because, especially living out further to some of the outer ring neighborhoods, it still feels a little more transient. People are from a bunch
The
of different
newer the
places.
neighborhood, obviously, the less time people could be there.
Exactly right. Exactly. And folks may move in for jobs, and so that's kind of more their focus. You don't get a lot of that community engagement necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I moved in and started to get involved, it was right around the time that my neighborhood was starting to have talks about reviving the neighborhood association. And so I joined as a secretary. And from then on, just been getting more and more and more involved.
I don't guess you would mind telling. What is your neighborhood? I know what it's called, but what is that closest to? Are you closer to 77 or are you closer to Billy
We are
Graham?
right off 77.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the other
So
side
you're
of 77 from
you're
Wilmore.
basically like Upper Revolution Park.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. See, Brian, that's what pays off living here your whole life. I know things.
I don't know. I know where 77 is.
Well, do you know where Wilmore is?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, tragic.
Jeez.
I know where West. Yeah. I don't
Do you know what
that
this is?
That's a pen.
That's an ink pen. Yes. Okay. Sure. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so got involved there, started to make connections with the city and with the county because there's this cool program that you can request a speaker to your neighborhood meetings. And we had different small little things like code enforcement or landscaping. People had questions about various things. And so I was able to connect those dots by having people from the various departments come in and explain more about their programs and that kind of thing. And so when you've been in your neighborhood a little bit, they start to look for folks who are going to do work, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so I signed up as a neighborhood leader with the City of Charlotte and got invited to go to the Community Planning Academy that's put on by the City of Charlotte's Planning Department. And that was I think where the light bulb came on for me. So I'm an engineer, so I'm very process oriented, control the input, you can control the output, right? And so we started to learn about how planning and how zoning shapes a city, and urban renewal and the old Brooklyn neighborhood and redlining and housing discrimination and all of these kinds of things. And for me, that was the moment where I said, oh, we got here by design, when you start to think about the crescent and the wedge.
Yes.
So we got to design our way out of it, right? And so that's when I said, okay, I want to learn as much as I possibly can. So after I came out of the Community Planning Academy, I was able to go to CMPD Citizens Academy, as well as Civic Leadership Academy with Housing and Neighborhood Services, and then the Aviation Academy that's put on by the airport. And so through that, just learning, meeting people, having the opportunity to advocate for my neighbors, I was invited to join the board of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Coalition. And the coalition represents the 19 neighborhoods between 77 and Billy Graham along West Boulevard. And so I've been the land use committee chair for
all
the
of
last
which
2.5
I
years.
have partied down in over the years. In a very reserved way.
Sure,
no, I got
sure,
friends
sure.
in every one of those neighborhoods, man. It's very dear to me. Yeah.
Good. Well, I absolutely love it, and have had an opportunity to work, like I said, as the land use chair for the last 2.5 years with the planning department, the Housing and Neighborhood Services, economic development, to put together what we're calling the West Corridor Playbook, and it's comprised of a market study, community-based project list, as well as an overview with recommendations of what it is that we need to do to be able to make sure our community thrives in the way that we'd like to see it. And so it's now been adopted by our city manager's office and is being rolled into the 2040 comprehensive plan.
Nice.
And we were able to get some funding this year to do some of the low-hanging fruit projects. So we're rolling. We're on
See,
the move.
that's the cool thing is just like when you just hit me to the aging in place, and I know that there's money that's going into that. You can't ask for the help if you don't know it's there sometimes.
Exactly.
And so it's good to have somebody to go and let's send you out, young lady, and you learn and come back and teach us.
Exactly
kind of like
right.
the doctors thing where people overseas will send somebody out to go to med school, they come back, they're a doctor for the town.
Exactly.
That's how it is in South America.
I've never been to South America, so.
I've been to Honduras.
That's Central America.
Yeah, that's as far south as I've been. Belize, Honduras, and like a little bit of Mexico. That's
Okay,
as
stop
far.
bragging.
No, oh,
Most of us only go as far south as
you've been all
Pelzer.
the way to South America.
I've been to South America as many times as I've been to Pilsner.
Pelzer, it's not
Same here.
Pilsner. Pilsner's a beer.
I said Pelzer.
You said Pelzer. Did he not say Pelzer?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway,
I'll never get it right.
I saw something on your site that I'd also seen, brought to my attention by another registered Republican that says, hey, man, I'm a registered Republican, but I like this Mayor Lyles, and she said this, and they pointed this out to me, and I went and Googled it, and basically she said, we've got to make the city affordable to the people who work here. If you work here, you should be able to afford to live here.
Right.
I know you hit on some of that, but how do we do that? Is it housing? Is it vouchers? Is it a different type of Section 8? Is it some sort of subsidized rent control? I mean, are we going the way of Manhattan at some point, or how do we get a hold of that? Because people are getting priced out of living somewhere within 15 miles of their job.
Absolutely. It's a couple of different things. Well, we can't do inclusionary zoning here because, of course, North Carolina state won't allow it. But it's a conglomeration. I would like to see, and I haven't investigated deeply yet, but I'm very interested to think about how do we subsidize in a way that's individual based versus place based. Because I think that helps when you start to look at development and financing, and how do we make sure that if we're not going to do a project that is based in affordable housing and getting funds from the state and from the federal government, how do we enable people to still live there even if it's market rate? I think there's something to do there. There's also land banking. So ownership's the name of the game, right? When you think about, okay, years from now, if I still want to be here, I want to lock in my price as much as possible, right? You do that by purchasing. And so I think we've got to support some of the existing programs like down payment assistance. There's rehab programs for seniors that are in their homes that maybe want to stay in their homes because they don't have anywhere else to go, but they need money for repairs. We've got that. We've got lead abatement as well. But like I was saying, as far as ownership, I think that we've got to leverage our city in a new way to support land trust. And so we have the Westside Community community land trust on this side of town. And that's one piece of our playbook that we've said we want to make sure that we support the land trust to enable them to be able to go and purchase vacant land, to be able to go and approach out-of-state investors. Because right now on the west side, we've got about 12% of our homes are actually vacant and they're owned by out-of-state investors or non-owner. They're non-owner occupied. And so that's an opportunity then to go in and say, okay, we'd like to purchase these homes, maybe in bulk, if you will, so that we can leverage some of that scale to be able to purchase them for cheaper. The other piece of it is I think that the city of Minneapolis has this, and maybe you're familiar, it has an interesting debate going on right now in terms of eliminating single-family zoning. And so I'm not a proponent of willy-nilly, like I feel like Nashville is kind of willy-nilly in the way that they do zoning. No shade. But I do think there's some opportunity to allow multiple family housing in neighborhoods in a way that's going to be tasteful. And it's like you could go to in Wesley Heights right now. There's duplexes and triplexes that you wouldn't necessarily even recognize from the
my
street.
sister's neighborhood, she I don't know what you would call her neighborhood, but it's Park and Woodlawn, Park Road Shopping Center area. They have probably
Montclair.
No, Montclair would be farther south, south of Madison Park, or MadPark as we call it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. But anyway, I can't remember what they call it. But anyway, that neighborhood's a lot of older Greek families. That particular neighborhood has some of the nicest duplexes in Charlotte, anywhere I've ever been. And you wouldn't... It's not a bad thing. They're just really, really nice duplexes and been there from since the 60s.
Right.
So there is a tasteful way to do that stuff.
Exactly.
Or a way that won't, I shouldn't say tasteful. Apartments are tasteful.
No, I know
a
what you
way
mean.
that will not upset the existing
Character of the neighborhood.
Yes.
Yep. And you mentioned apartments, so I definitely think there's a place when, especially as we think about the Silver Line, for transit-oriented development, like mixed use, mixed income development. I think that we've got to increase density in certain areas where it makes sense. I think you've got to make it easier to build in the city by reducing waste in the system. When you start to look at zoning and permitting processes, I think there's some things we can do there to streamline the process. So we can reduce carrying costs, for instance, for developers. I think. Also, though, there's a component of affordability that has to do with economic mobility. We've got to be able to train folks to get jobs that are higher wages and jobs that are meeting the needs of the city. So as we think about recruiting businesses in targeted areas, we want to make sure that we're growing a workforce that can take those jobs and not just the entry-level jobs, but be able to grow.
I think Charlotte's always been progressive at higher paying, higher skilled jobs. But some of the other, I will not name names of companies, but some of the other companies, I've railed on them for years. You cannot hire someone for $8 or $9 an hour and expect to get a Costco type employee that's being hired for $17 an hour, who will stay at Costco forever, run the register because they love it. You're just not going to get that same quality of person because even if it's a good worker, they're going to be looking to move on quicker.
Exactly right.
You talked a lot about residential. What about commercial? On Freedom Drive, there's some golden opportunities for people to snatch up some of these old empty buildings. And it can be right beside, like I think it's called Mezzanine down here at Camp Green and Freedom, the apartment complex.
Yep.
That's going right into that parking lot where Compare for you folks, Compare Foods, the old Kmart for all of us old heads. That's what it used to be, but it's bumping up right there. There's just going to be an entry and an exit right there in that parking lot. And also the school. Was it Movement School?
Movement School.
Yeah, so a lot of cool stuff right there with an apartment complex right next door.
Exactly right.
There's golden opportunities, I feel like.
Does the city have a lot of grants available for some of these buildings, or like a lot of money for small business loans? Like I'm not familiar with all of it here in Charlotte, so do they have
Did
a
you
lot
bring
of that?
paperwork for us is the question. How do we get money?
But I didn't know, like, because with, like you just said, Freedom Drive and this whole area is got
Money
a bunch of
specifically
building.
for like economic.
Do they have a lot to offer in that sense?
Not in the way of like new buildings and things like that. The city does offer matching grants for things like security improvement. They do have facade improvement grants, but again, they're matching grants. And so you've got to be careful with that a lot of times, especially if you don't own your building, because if you go get the matching grant, then you upfit the building, well, then you may be subject to being priced out because now the person who owns the building will send you off. So there's some things to think about, but the money is definitely there. One thing that I think that we can do differently is restructure the way the grants are, because a lot of times access to capital is the issue with small business. And so if you had the money, you wouldn't necessarily need the matching grant. So putting it up on the front end, I think, is a barrier of entry for folks. And so that's something that the Business Advisory Committee and Economic Development group have been talking about and trying to figure out how do we make that more accessible for small business.
Yeah, and I know I keep focusing a lot on the Freedom Drive corridor, but that is
What's a hot
that
spot?
is the West Side Plaza Midwood type thing. That is our Central and Plaza area over there. That and Tuckasegee. A block from us is the Lucky Puppy?
Lucky Dog.
Lucky Dog
uh-huh.
Bar. They do a booming business. There's a new coffee place that opened across from J Street, across from them. They're putting a seltzery in, is what I heard.
What is a seltzery?
They make seltzer,
Like
White Claw. It's like rich people's Zima. Okay. Yeah. But White Claw's hot right now.
Yeah,
People like White Claw.
Everybody's making versions of that.
Yeah.
If you go the back way, there's that in like the corner of the bin there. They're putting something in there. I don't even know what that's gonna be.
Yeah, that entry back there behind. There's a city landscape facility diagonally across from us on Tuckasegee. You should know that. But anyway, behind them is another. I think they're building I don't know if they're expanding the Wesley Heights apartments down there. But anyway, there's something that's built. It's
and then
it's
they've been talking
residential.
about putting a brewery over here too somewhere.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of-
Thrift Road's probably going to be pretty hot. It's the old Ruth's Salads building. They used to make or they still do pimento cheese and chicken. It's for poor people like us, like me. I used to eat that stuff. But anyway, those old buildings there, they've graded all the parking lots, made them level. They're going to be hip buildings with roll-up doors. But they've got cool bones and loading docks and big areas where they can be retrofitted however you want it. It's going to be a hot area.
I was just over, I think it was last week, at Noble Smoke.
Yep.
I absolutely love what they've done with the building in there and the little chicken spot or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, I
on
think
the
what's it, Luana's or something like that? It's a person's first name and then some kind of chicken thing. It's an old gas station. That was an Esso.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think it was an Esso and then an Exxon maybe 40 years ago.
I just read today that somewhere on South Boulevard there's an old tire shop. They're turning into like 5 restaurants and a medical center.
I'm not sure that's District 3.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying they're taking
We
these
don't care.
buildings.
I love it.
We don't care, man. Let somebody else
You
deal with
are
that.
the mayor of this town. You know
No,
where
man.
everything.
But yeah, it's all these
He knows
older
where
buildings.
it was at certain times of
Right.
the year and date.
Right.
Man, South Boulevard wasn't nothing in 1987. I remember Crockett Park burned
Neither
down.
was I.
Oh, Lord. You were something. You were a pleasant thought in
A
somebody's
twinkle
mind.
in my daddy's eye.
Yeah. But I guess I keep going back to that because there's such great opportunities. I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, look what the county did with the old Freedom Mall. That's
The Valley
amazing, that
Water Center,
facility out there. It's the county offices down here where I went and begged them not to raise my taxes so much,
Okay.
Brian. Remember that?
Yeah.
I came in here all smiling. Man, they knocked it way down, dude. But they were real nice. But that facility is amazing, and I'm glad because it just sat, quasi, semi-empty for so long. There's great opportunities everywhere, but I still think this is the last great frontier in
Right.
Charlotte as far as
Right.
redevelopment
Absolutely.
in an area that still has buildings of character.
So let me ask you this too. Outside of the business aspect of this, what are some cool spots in the district that you might go to frequent, to like just hang out or recommend that might be good places that people check out that they may not have?
Food, drink, music,
Kind of hidden
something like that.
gems, I guess, if you want to call them.
Well, I'm simple, so I'm a simple girl. I spend a lot of time at the West Boulevard Library. I kid you not. But I also love Pinky's.
Nerd.
I know, it's bad. Enderley Coffee, I just adore.
Yeah, we know that dude.
I just
Yeah.
adore Tony.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Real nice guy.
Yep, I love to go to Enderley Coffee. I love Cuzzo's. That lobster mac and cheese is
Okay.
everything. If you've got, you never had the lobster mac and cheese?
No, I haven't. Not that one. I tried it in Savannah one time. It was okay.
No, you need to go to Cuzzo's.
Okay.
And have their lobster mac and cheese. It's amazing. And their chicken tenders are so good that you don't even have to have sauce. I know I'm
What are you
talking-
working for them? Stop shilling.
It's good. When I like it, I like it. I really do. But I like.
Well, you're going right down there. So your next stop, you're probably going to tell me you just stop off at the Milestone to grab a PBR on Friday night. Have you ever been to Milestone?
No.
That is world
And I've
famous.
never had a PBR.
Oh,
Make sure it's in a can and very cold. But anyway,
No.
Milestone is one of your landmark places on the west side since
so I'm gonna have to go over there.
1969. I
Do
mean,
they serve like ginger beer? Because I don't drink.
I don't know. It's not
It's
really
a-
the drink. It's
it's
a famous,
it's a famous
punk
metal
and rock
punk,
and metal
yeah.
club.
Okay.
But they've had all kind of stuff. But it really is a very famous place.
cash only. Make sure it's cash
Yeah,
only.
cash only.
It's one
Don't
of
ever
the
take no
few
card in
places.
there. They'll
That's
look
how
at you
you'll know
weird.
that you don't belong.
Yeah,
If you
they've
show
got
up
the couch that used to be in the bar areas outside now.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It is just terrible.
But
it's missing
but
the
it's
center.
historic. But it's historic.
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of stickers and writing on the wall and stuff like that. And anyway, there was a Holly Farms chicken right beside there.
You literally know.
Yeah, they were the first ones to
Right?
have those potato wedges with the skins on it. Everybody else after that was a poser. But that place, right down the other side of, you go back down Thrift Road, up to the, where Pinky's is.
Yeah, of course.
Across the park, across the street, there's some
Rhino
apartments. I
Market
think it's Asbury Flats or something like that. That's the former site of the world famous Pterodactyl Club, punk, rock, industrial. The Ramones played there. Living Colour. I saw Living Colour there back in the 80s. Nirvana played there, I think. Or Nirvana might have been at 1313. But a lot of really cool bands, a lot of really drunk people.
So let me ask you this question because it's not in District 3. It's off Central Avenue, or it used to be off Central Avenue.
Okay.
It was I'm pretty sure it was a club. I was in there maybe like 2 times. Where they used to do Play Date Charlotte. Anyway, they knocked it down and they rebuilt. I think the Salvation Army is across the street from there now.
Okay.
What was that place?
It was, they used to do events there. It was the Big Chill or something, or was that the name of it? But it was one of those places where they did events.
Yeah.
You could rent it to do your event. It wasn't necessarily a club every weekend, but they could rent it out. There was another one called the Big Chills on East Boulevard and maybe McDowell.
I just remember
Very
one day
similar
it was
places.
flattened and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that was, and it was really cool, and I think you would consider that architecture Art Deco. But
There's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, Recover, they're a cool spot over
tell her
here.
about Recover.
But to
Y'all
go back
need to
to
make me a
Pinky's.
list.
Well, to go.
These are places that you should know are over here because you can brag on them. Recover
Yeah.
Brands is
Yeah, so where Pinky's is, pretty much directly across from Pinky's, and then what's that over there?
behind Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
Where the old Consolidated building is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are an apparel company that we do business with sometimes.
Headquartered in North Carolina.
Yeah, and they're headquartered here. But they make all of their apparel out of upcycled cotton and recycled plastic.
Cool.
So
Oh,
it's kind of
nice.
cool.
Eight plastic bottles and upcycled cotton goes into the weaving machinations and
Yeah. But we-
whatever mechanical engineering term I'm looking for in production.
I don't even remember how we really found them, and then we realized, oh, they're right here. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but really cool stuff, good for the environment. They do very little dyeing. That's why none of their shirts are solid. They're all blends because it's a blend. It's an amalgamation of all these different colors of plastic and cotton. They also have,
I was going to say, you could pick up some at MadPark.
yeah, we sell those. Anyway, they also do like an Under Armour type thing, a sports shirt, and those are actually very, very competitive on price. I was told by a run club. We should have charged more. Well, we did some of those for a run club recently, but that's a really cool thing that's down there. Rhino Market's down there.
Yep,
But there's a lot of cool stuff just right here. But also, down in Still Creek and up in the northwest part and out Brookshire Freeway and not Brookshire, but Bellhaven Boulevard and all that stuff. So it's a cool area of town.
Yeah.
I had a question, and it wasn't political, but it was about your platform. You've told us what you want to do. This is a very specific one because we were loading the question up. How do we encourage or help spur the growth of music and art venues in your district, specifically Freedom Drive Corridor, because there's so many places that you could put them?
Yeah.
Is there
well,
anything we could do for music and?
Yeah, and I feel like even from the conversation we were just having, it's like marketing. It sounds like there's definitely opportunity there, and I don't know how much the Arts and Science Council gets involved with some of the work or some of the businesses that you guys have already talked about. But I think that's a piece of creating that sense of place. And there's some programming things that it sounds like that can be done just so that folks know what's out there and what's available, and to be able to create a sense of, okay, there's destinations out here. I would absolutely love to do something like that, but I think that's
Maybe.
where it starts, is the marketing piece. Because when folks because if you're going over to Plaza Midwood, what kind of vibe you're going to get, or if you're going down to South End, that kind of thing. But being able to really highlight what's existing on Freedom Drive, I think there's opportunity there based on just the things that you guys talked about that I didn't even know.
Maybe a second or a satellite school of rock.
I was going to say, too, I think some of that comes on to places like Charlotte Center City Partners and their new Music Everywhere initiative, or websites like newsoundonline.com that handle some of that stuff. Just because they do like the marketing, like Charlotte Center City Partners and this Music Everywhere thing, they've got marketing behind it, and that's a new initiative they started like a year ago. So I think just once places try to start popping up, just more people need to be involved. And
Right, and
like
even
you
the
said,
culture
marketing.
blocks and things like that.
Well, I think the growth that's already moving in a wave, just a gigantic, glowing golden wave down into the west side. You have to guard against the bad things. You've already said that. You guys have a good plan for that, I feel like. You're already vigilant you've already got specific points that you've spelled out in your platform. People can look at on your website, which is winwithwatlington.com.
Yes.
All right, I got that right. But
Do you do a lot on social media?
Like in the way of for Win with
I'm-
Watlington specifically.
No, just are you a big proponent? Do you use it a lot? I mean, and just by
I
following
feel
other
like
people,
the
do you
last
tweet a
year,
lot?
whatever leisure activities I was doing on social media, I don't have time to do anymore. But usually, yes, usually. I like Instagram. I don't have a Twitter, but Insta and everybody stays on Facebook because your
Right.
family is there and you can manage events. But those are the two ones. I don't have a Snapchat. That's where I fell off. I knew I got old when I was like, I don't need a Snapchat.
no, you just needed productive use of your time.
Yeah.
We don't need to see your meal all the
Right,
time.
right.
Tell us a little bit about Victoria and her, I'm using air quotes again, 10 Commandments. and I want to know if that is
Not
that
commandments.
anyway, I don't know if that's from the King James or the version with the Apocrypha, but anyway, just in brief, and I know you have it broken down into sections. It's like a friendly manifesto, if you
Yeah.
will. Tell us about that.
Sure. So like you said, it's in 4 sections, and those 4 sections are community-driven strategic planning, and that's all about engaging the community and getting folks in different positions, not just about the elected officials.
We're
Exactly.
engaged.
Yes.
Not like that. We're
together.
both married
I'm
already.
married.
I'm married, but I'm willing to, whatever,
Okay.
to be
Should I
engaged
step
again.
out?
I don't know.
Pride Festival was this weekend.
I'm okay with that. They just don't want me. I'm not pretty or nothing.
Oh, geez.
Anyway,
Yeah, so getting folks educated, like you said before, like how do you know what to ask about if you don't know it exists? Increasing engagement, especially on the west side of folks on the board, on the boards of commissions of the city, because that's a place where we're underrepresented. Being able to work cross-functionally. So the city, the city and the county talk a lot about wanting to create a seamless experience for the customer. I don't know if y'all ever called 311, but
I have. I haven't had bad experiences with it,
Right,
but I
right.
don't understand
Good.
why they changed the charmec.org website, because it seems convoluted now, because that original from 2 years ago website pops up, and then all of a sudden you've got the 311. It makes it harder for me to find, okay, I need the phone number for clerk of court. Can't find it.
well, if you, see, I'm just going to charlottenc.gov now.
Okay.
I just do this thing that I know you're not familiar with because you're older. It's called Google.
Right.
I knew
But
he
guess
was going
what?
there.
When you
You just
dial the
type it
number,
in.
704-336 something, whatever it is, it takes you to 311 anyway, dude. You got to get a number with an extension on it to get somebody in the court over there. I'm not in court. It's for other stuff, for real estate stuff. I ain't been arrested ever, really, technically.
Technically,
I don't
just
need to dial
detained.
those numbers, but I'm just saying.
They asked me for papers, and I was like, well, all right.
Sure. I'm just kidding.
Anyway,
I'm about
back
to go
to
home
your-
and Google you. No, you're fine. You're fine.
It's boring. I assure you it's boring.
We shall see.
It's
No.
a picture of me with some North Korean kids on a playground trying to get out of that country. That's all it is.
Oh, God.
You did the picture.
I did that picture.
Oh, my goodness. What else? Oh,
We were talking about
affordable
the-
housing. Yep.
yes.
And we talked already a little bit about some of
Yep.
the things from there. And then transportation. We talked a little bit about that, transit-oriented development. I'm a proponent of alternative methods of transit, like bike lanes, like
Yeah, I like that.
Scooters.
And then economic mobility. So when you talk about workforce development, when you talk about small business development, that's the other leg, if you will, of the
Yeah.
platform. But yeah.
I like all that. I'm down with all that. I don't know all the details, but I'd be very interested in seeing how you would implement that stuff or help.
Yeah.
Who has helped you in your campaign? I know you have people that endorse you, and there's some big boppers on there. I've seen some names I recognize. There's some young fellow named Hugh McCall. I'm familiar with NCNB. That was before Brian's parents were born, probably. But anyway, as far as people already on city council, you're getting some help. People like Mr. Dunlap, who is really mentoring you in the process of becoming or running? I don't want to count the
Chickens
Chickens
for the hatch. Right.
yeah, but
please go out and vote. We need every vote.
you need to vote. You need to vote. And just because there's a lot of Democrats on the council already, there's not a problem with voting for another one as long as they're doing good work.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So like you said,
Who helps?
Yeah. So it's interesting because when I think about who has helped from the very beginning, it's been my neighborhood leaders. So the Ricky Halls, the Brenda Campbells, the Frank Coleys, the Beverly Clarks, Mr. Ron Leeper as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the folks that I really leaned
He's a
on.
fixture in Charlotte.
Yeah, he's amazing. Just a very sweet, sweet spirit. Like you said, Commissioner Dunlap. And especially, I will even say, not from a campaign standpoint, but just from a raising me up, if you will, to be effective. City staff. I mean, over the years, they have been amazing. The planning department, I think the world of Taiwo, Kevin Dick over in economic development. There's so many. I don't want to start naming names now. I've started. But there's, I know, right? Y'all know who you are. No. But
like a
all
Grammy
of them,
speech.
yeah, they're just very, very helpful and really want to make sure that if you're coming to try to really get engaged and be involved and you want to help do work, they are open arms.
Well, they probably really appreciate anyone that really is trying to help and is saying, hey, what do you have available for me? Let me use it. I'll be back. I'll come back with whatever you need.
Exactly right. Exactly.
I've never had anybody that was really tough to deal with if I had to go to a county or city office. If I asked them, what do I need? And they said, you'll have to get this. Okay, let me go get it. And if I'm trying, they're always very patient, just like at the clerk of courts. The lady had to tell me to come back 5 times.
I mean, I've dealt with that in South Carolina, so.
Yeah.
It's
That
everywhere.
ain't District 3.
I
Which
used to live
sounds
in
like
Abbeville, South Carolina,
Oh, man.
in
Abbeville.
Columbia.
They're one of the people I put in the other job I have.
yeah.
I see some of the fine people in Abbeville. That's a whole.
Brian works for an unnamed slammer type magazine where they have the mugshots on
Oh,
it.
Lord, like the jailbird.
Yeah. Well, that's brand name stuff.
Yeah. But so I see some of the fine people of Abbeville.
Yeah.
That's
well,
funny.
we all got them. We all got
Yeah,
'em.
yeah.
What what one chain restaurant would you like to see appear on Tuckasegee Road?
Oh, Lord, the one.
It can be fast food. It can be fine dining. It could be Fleming's. It could be Morton's of Chicago. If you could have one, never mind how
Not
it
that
might
it matches at all.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm always down to go to Papa Dough whenever I go to Atlanta or other places. So.
do. I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
What?
Yeah.
Do you know what Papa Dough is? Oh, my gosh.
What is it?
It's the seafood restaurant, but it's like on steroids. It's like Razoo's except more. You don't know Razoo? Okay, forget it.
I mean, I remember Junior's that used to be right across from Georgia Tech in 1988, but
Is it still there? I need to go look.
no,
The
they tore it
varsity
down
is
for the
down there
Olympic
still.
Village.
Oh.
It was right across 85 from the varsity.
Is it like
Gotcha.
restaurant style or with like a waiter, or is it
Yeah,
like seafood? Okay.
It's not like Libby Hill or anything where you just go to the counter.
I don't know what that is either.
Oh, Lord. See, I'm through with you.
Well, have you ever been to Bean There, done that in Tampa?
No.
The best breakfast burrito you'll ever have.
No, I haven't been to Tampa in years. Wow.
You ain't missing nothing. No, it's nice. I like that better than the Atlantic side.
So, since we're in a music studio, I have to ask
Beyonce.
Beyond. Okay.
Well, no, he was going to ask about music.
Well, I was gonna ask.
Shade.
I was gonna ask her who she listens to right now and who her favorite
Okay,
musician
so I'll
is.
tell you who
and
I
she
listen to
said
right now.
Beyonce.
Beyonce, Drake, Sam Hunt. Don't judge me. I know he's a little
What are you,
bro country,
12?
but I love it. Yes.
Oh, Lord.
I like Chris Stapleton. I used to be a huge Toby Keith fan. That vibrato is just everything, but I feel like I haven't heard anything from him in a while.
So what I got is she likes a little country and a little bit of hip hop. So she's clearly
yeah.
into that little Nas
Florida
X
No,
thing.
Georgia
I don't
line.
like it. I don't like it at all. No shade. I love Florida Georgia line. Not gonna lie. Don't laugh. It's fine. No, but
Old Town
I'm
Road.
not into Old Town
Where'd
Road.
Logan
I'm
put my
more
trash
like-
can to puke in?
Whatever. Oh, don't tell me
There
you're a
it
country
is.
purist.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a snob. Well, since y'all brought it up, I'll go ahead and ask you.
Yes, tell me.
True father of reggae, Bob Marley or Peter Tosh?
I don't know who Peter Tosh is.
Well, he's the true father of reggae. You could even make an argument for Dennis Brown, but anyway, Google that name. He was about
will.
9 feet tall, rode a unicycle around Kingston and London, and carried an AK-47.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, he was murdered in his home. It's a good way to go.
Wow.
He died peacefully at home without the rest of his blood. Oh, God.
Tragic.
Okay, I think that might be a signal to wrap it up. Listen, Victoria, we really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks for coming in and giving us specific ways that you want to help the city. And I think it's all doable with good leadership, and I think you're that leadership. We got to get younger. We got to get more energetic, and I think you could provide that. I'm giving my official personal endorsement for one. Hey, you want an endorsement from a registered
Yes,
Republican?
thanks.
Hey, here it is, man. I guess I can't vote in the primary. But
MadPark
anyway,
endorsement.
the MadPark endorsement. We are party free, which sounds very boring, actually.
Especially considering your industry.
Yeah, exactly. We're very boring.
No,
But
it's
anyway,
been a party.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for
Thank you for being with us. Go to Victoria's site, winwithwatlington.com. Check out Miss Victoria Watlington. See what she's all about. If this didn't explain to you what she's all about and how patient she can be with people and how she can keep her focus, there's no heckler in any political rally that's ever going to shake you like that. Peter Tosh. What the hell am I talking about? But anyway, the West Side thanks you. District 3 thanks you. Good luck.
Thank
there
you.
are other people running, so be sure to do your due diligence, potential voters. But there are other people running, but this is the individual that I believe you might do well to vote for. And watch her. Let's see if we've got a rising political star on our hands, or public servant star.
There you go.
That's better than political. But anyway, my name is Tom, and that guy over there is
Brian.
and this was
Victoria Watlington.
all right, and this was the MadPark podcast. Thanks for tuning in again. There's no tuning, but thanks for listening again. It was recorded here at the Vault inside the Playroom at 916 Tuckasegee. Check them out too, theplayroomonline.com. Charlotte's premier recording and rehearsal facility since 1994. Rent, rehearse, excel.
Also visit madparkdesigns.com because that's who we are and we need to plug ourselves.
Yeah, and we need money too.